You've definitely heard the term daddy issues. It gets thrown around a lot in pop culture and friend groups. Everybody loves to blame unhealthy or toxic behaviors in relationships on daddy issues. It seems to always be spoken as an insult. "Oh, she's got major daddy issues," in a tone of voice that suggests the person's toxic and should be avoided. If a woman has sex too soon, she has daddy issues. If she doesn't want to have sex, she has daddy issues. If she wants reassurance, daddy issues. If she prefers older men, likes to engage in kinks, or calls her partner daddy in bed, she has daddy issues. You see the pattern here. The term daddy issues is overused and has become a catch-all term to describe women's behavior when it comes to sex and relationships. Sure, daddy issues can absolutely get in the way of having a healthy relationship. But nobody should be ridiculed for something that's out of their control, since these issues are based on things that happened during somebody's childhood. So what does it all actually mean? Have you ever been told you have daddy issues, or told someone else? Is it just a social construct designed to minimize women's attachment needs? Watch this video to find out all about the real meaning of daddy issues, where the term comes from, and gender issues. Some of these facts will blow your mind. We'll tell you about the 12 signs of daddy issues, so you can find out if you or someone you know might have them. We'll even tell you how daddy issues affect choices and relationships, and some things you can do if you are in this situation. There's a lot more to daddy issues than you might think, and it's not just exclusive to women. Surprised? Watch until the end of this video to set things straight and get yourself in the know about the misused, misunderstood, and overgendered phenomena known as daddy issues. Let's start with a bit of background. Daddy issues isn't a new psychological or social concept as you may think. If we look back, we can actually find evidence of it in Greek mythology with the story of Electra. Electra notoriously plotted to kill her mother as revenge for killing her father. This is where the term Electra complex comes from in psychoanalysis. The famous father of psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud developed this theory to describe a girl's sexual competition with her mother for the sexual possession of her father. If this sounds familiar, you might have heard of the Oedipus complex, which is the male opposite of this. It was Freud's colleague, Carl Jung, who coined the term Electra complex to describe this, which is the basis of what we informally know as daddy issues. According to this old theory, these issues develop in the psychosexual stages of development between the ages of 3 and 6. Think about children's fairy tales where the trials and tribulations of a hero and heroine are caused by a dead father and an evil, envious stepmother who obstructs their happy ending. Girls especially identify with a heroine who finds a prince charming to slay her demons. So what does it all even mean? Well, it's hard to say, seeing as daddy issues isn't actually an official medical term or a recognized disorder in psychology. In fact, the Electra complex, as Freud described it, is not widely accepted in psychology because his ideas are seen as outdated and sexist. It's more of a theory that's become the subject of jokes. But wait, if that's the case, why do we still talk about daddy issues? That's because daddy issues absolutely exist, but just not how Freud described it. Daddy issues refers to a group of behaviors and characteristics rather than a disorder. And both males and females can have a father complex. This is because no matter what gender you are, your relationship with your caregivers will always have a significant influence on the way you approach and deal with your adult relationships. The way a person's issues manifest might not look exactly the same, but this is not an exclusively female problem. This complex is made up of a group of unconscious associations or strong unconscious impulses which specifically relate to the traditional archetype of the father. These associations and impulses can be either positive, like readily believing in authority figures, or negative, like thinking all men are likely to be uncooperative or harsh. This is all rooted in childhood, but how exactly? Children need at least one dependable adult in their lives to form a secure attachment. If a child doesn't have a father figure in his or her life consistently, this could lead to an insecure attachment style later in adulthood. Attachment issues are a very real part of what contributes to dysfunctional relationship styles. And when children don't have adults to provide them with the skills to create safe relationships, it can lead to anxious or avoidant attachment styles, commonly referred to as daddy issues. Some situations which lead to negative attachment styles are a parent who left the family or was mostly absent, a parent who is emotionally or physically abusive, a parent who wasn't loving or nurturing, a parent who was extremely overbearing, or a parent who treated the other parent badly. You see, the father complex is not something that is exclusive to absent, abusive, or disloyal fathers. You can have daddy issues from a father who is simply bad at expressing his emotions. A father complex is not even exclusive to fathers. To keep it simple, in this video we will say fathers, but a father complex can come from any important male in your life growing up. Now, think back to your childhood. As a child, you want to impress your father and make him think you're amazing. He's the first man you know, and the first man to ever say, "I love you." So he is the man you subconsciously compare every man to, good or bad, absent or present. Children with emotionally or physically unavailable fathers believe that if they're good enough, their father will love them and won't leave. In adulthood, this sets up those children for toxic relationships where they ignore red flags and make excuses to give multiple chances to partners who do not deserve one. This is because when children don't feel loved, accepted, or respected growing up, it stays with them. Let's look at 5 scenarios which can lead to daddy issues. I guarantee that you will be surprised and might even relate to some of them. Number 1. Did you feel like you had to be perfect and average was not acceptable? In this scenario, there was love, but it was conditional. Your father may have been proud and giving you praise for being the best at something. A lot of the time, this is actually an example of your parent living out the dreams they never got to achieve through you. It can also be about them wanting to show off to their friends and using your attainment to feed their status. So when you don't measure up to their expectations, it harms their reputation and you feel constantly under pressure to please them. Number 2, when you make mistakes, were you made to feel unloved and ashamed? Like the first scenario, this also feeds into the idea of your actions being linked to your father's status. But in this case, it's about your actions reflecting your family and bringing shame on your father. This dynamic makes for a hostile, tense, and insecure environment. Number 3, did you feel like you were never allowed to express anger or disagree? This scenario comes from controlling fathers who are dominating and sometimes emotionally or physically abusive. This leads to children suppressing their personalities and can also lead to a fearful and avoidant attachment style. Children in this scenario don't feel comfortable openly disagreeing with their fathers or standing up to him. They feel unable to even respectfully express their own opinions and feelings. Number 4, did you grow up thinking it was a man's job to take care of the family? In this scenario, girls feel like they need to be taken care of or rescued, and boys feel like they need to be the protective figures. Thankfully, this is becoming an outdated parenting style in the West and is not as common anymore. That being said, everybody is different. Different childhoods and different parent-child relationships can result in different outcomes in adulthood, and someone who has a rough childhood won't always have daddy issues. Plus, as we previously saw, the term is often used very loosely and used to blame and label rather than describe or understand. To help us understand better, let's take a closer look at how these negative attachment styles can affect choice and relationships in adulthood when you have a father complex. The basic principle here is that people will gravitate towards the type of relationships they've had in the past, even if it was a toxic one. So if your relationship with your parental figure was negative or traumatic, you're more likely to choose a partner who will let you down in the same way. For some people, this type of relationship seems normal because they experienced it growing up and don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. For other people, choosing a partner that is similar to their father is an unconscious choice to replace the love they never had from him. A poor relationship with your father can definitely affect your behavior in the bedroom, too. Studies have linked absentee fathers to heightened and risky sexual behavior in women, such as seeking out multiple partners, engaging in casual sex, and being sexually disinhibited. Men with a father complex also have baggage in the bedroom, as research shows this can make them feel insecure about their masculinity. This type of insecurity can make men either shy away from dating and sex or overcompensate by displaying overly macho, aggressive behavior. In extreme cases, this can even manifest as sexual violence. Of course, men and women can display these behaviors without having father issues, and these choices can ultimately be personal preference. The use of the word daddy or a preference for domination in the bedroom does not equate to daddy issues. This type of sexual behavior is not necessarily negative as long as it's consensual, in line with your value system, and not harmful. And it can lead to a very healthy sex life. People in general like a lot of different things, including role-playing or wearing a certain outfit, and it's just as valid as dominant-subordinate dynamics. Another way a father complex can manifest is father hunger. The hunger stimulated by parental absence can leave people to continuously seek external sources of validation to boost their self-esteem. Some studies have shown that people with an unmet father hunger are more likely to have eating disorders or other mental illnesses. When it comes to men, this can lead them to try to find the internal father within themselves as an attempt to shift focus from needing paternal guidance to providing it. Even though these daddy issues can affect all aspects of life and all sorts of human interactions, they most commonly affect your romantic relationships. For example, if you have this father hunger, you're more likely to keep picking the wrong relationships for the wrong reasons. You're like a hungry person who walks into the grocery store and buys the junk food because the package is appealing, even though the ingredients inside the package are bad for you. In this same way, in the dating scene, you may have father hunger because you don't feel loved or accepted by your dad for being the imperfect person you are. In relationships, you feel you have to be perfect. You rarely stand up for yourself, or argue, or get mad, all of which are essential in healthy relationships. And you're often disappointed and angry because you're foolishly stopping for the perfect food, the Prince Charming who will satisfy your father hunger. Basically, you're looking for some imaginary daddy who will solve your problems for you and protect you, the version of daddy that exists in the mind of a child. With all that being said, a father complex doesn't always mean you'll attract unsuitable partners, but these issues can still affect relationships with great partners. This is because negative attachment styles can make people push away their partner and model emotionally unavailable or abusive behaviors, which means you could be subconsciously forcing a reenactment of the negative relationship with your father. Do you tend to have problems in your romantic relationships or with men in your life? Do you think you could have daddy issues? Does this video make you think of someone you know? Here are the 12 signs of daddy issues to help you find out. Remember, it isn't always a romantic partner. It can even be your family, friend, or colleague. As you can probably guess, people who have a loving and secure relationship with their parental figures are likely to form secure attachment styles and grow into confident and self-assured adults. Their relationships tend to be long-lasting and built on real trust and intimacy. Then you have the people with negative attachment styles, the ones with daddy issues who often need a lot of reassurance and see any conflict as a sign that the relationship, including friendship, is hopeless. So at number 1, you have a fear of abandonment. This is a big one. It can happen because your father was absent and abandoned you when you were young, or present but emotionally unavailable. The fear of abandonment can also mean you stay in toxic relationships or with people who are not good for you, making you more likely to accept an abusive relationship. Number 2, you have trust issues. This is usually because you subconsciously trusted your father to protect and love you, but he hurt you, didn't accept you, or generally didn't live up to your expectations. Number 3, you need a lot of validation. If you're dating someone, you have this thing where you need to make it known to your partner that you're in demand, or actually seek the validation of other men even when you're with a good guy. Number 4, you like inciting jealousy to feel cared for or validated. Number 5, you have unrealistic expectations of a partner that are difficult to fulfill because you struggled with feelings of not being loved enough or rejection as a child. Number 6, you're jealous, clingy, overprotective, and insecure because of low self-esteem. Number 7, you date people a lot older than you to fill the father role. Number 8, you're attracted to emotionally unavailable or narcissistic people. If this sounds familiar, tread carefully. This can quickly become an addictive pattern. It creates an illusion of familiarity, but ultimately it will be damaging when you're constantly trying to be good enough. Number 9, breakups aren't just devastating for you, they're catastrophic. This is when you go back to your ex emotionally, sleep with them, or feel like you own them even after the relationship has ended. Number 10, you need unreasonable levels of constant reassurance that everything is all right, that you're good enough, smart enough, hot enough, and so on. Number 11, it's hard for you to remain single and you are a serial monogamist. Number 12, you gravitate towards relationships that keep you on your toes instead of relationships that are mutual, meaningful, and solid. You never feel like it's the right relationship unless you're feeling insecure, competitive, and jealous, like you have something to chase after and prove. So you've checked off these signs and realized that you or someone you know has daddy issues. What can you do? Well, you can start by figuring out if it's something you need to work through. If you said yes to some of these signs and you find you can relate to a lot of this video, you need to think about whether this is 1, because you have a father complex, 2, negatively impacting your life, and 3, perfectly healthy and aligned with your personal preferences. If you are self-aware and know how to avoid these damaging patterns, that's a good start. But if you're someone who keeps ending up in relationships that are always déjà vu of the painful aspects of your childhood, then it may be time to make a change. Think about your current or past relationships. Can you spot a pattern in the type of partners you chose? Are your relationships usually full of insecurity, anxiety, or drama? Reflecting on your experiences and learning about the different attachment styles can help you figure out yours so that you know if a change is in order. Another good idea is to look at healthy relationships or talk to people in healthy relationships. This can help you see how different, happy, and secure your life can be. Try to think about what is standing between you and a healthy relationship. Is it a behavior you need to work on? Is it a certain type of partner you need to avoid? Since the father complex is rooted deeply in your past, it can be very difficult to unpack. It is possible that you've buried some of these memories or tried to ignore past trauma, but ignoring the feelings that have surrounded your childhood and your parents is only going to make it harder to move beyond the struggles you're facing. If you're struggling or think you have some unresolved daddy issues, consider talking to a counselor or a therapist who can help you identify and change your patterns. Taking the time to understand, process, and work on any unresolved grievances and feelings we have about our parents is essential. The bottom line is, a lot of us have daddy issues and they're very common. Remember that just because you didn't get the security you deserved does not mean you're destined for a life of misery, poor choices, and heartache. You're more than your relationship with your father and should not let yourself be defined by wounded people. And if you do have a good father, celebrate him today. Remember to make sure you share this video with your friends and family so you can help them understand you better or even recognize the signs for themselves if they need to. This could be the wake-up call they need. What did you learn about daddy issues in psychology that you didn't know before? Which signs did you recognize in someone you know? Did you recognize any in yourself? Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share about daddy issues? Leave a comment and tell us about your experiences or opinions on this video below. We'd love to know what kind of videos you'd like to see in the future. Are there any topics you're really interested in finding out more about? Let us know. If this video helped you or you liked it, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. See you next time!